The opinions expressed on the radio program by the hosts, co hosts, guests, and call in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions and responsibility of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Genesis Radio, www.genesisradio.com, Genesis Radio's owners, management, or affiliates.
It's another Thoughtful Thursday, and you're on here with Reason for Reason, and I'm your host, Ron Yates. So you know what? It's been a busy week. Like every week in America is busy since, Donnie Trasco took over. So, this week, where do I begin? I guess I got to start with the Epstein file. That seems to be what everybody is talking about. What's on everybody's mind, or what's on everybody's mind, right? Do these things really exist? And if they do, what's on them? Now, here's the interesting part. So, so when Hillary Clinton was running for office, the Republicans and Trump made a big deal about some missing emails. They said, well, she used a private server to, conduct some governmental business. And they said, man, that's a big deal. There may be something here. And they investigated. They must have called Hillary before Congress, I don't know, 2-3 times to testify about some missing emails. Do we even know if there were any emails? And if so, what was so explosive that may have been on them? Now let's think for a second. Emails. Now those people can track, right? You can always print out an email onto a hard copy of the paper. So there could be a track record. So would Hillary send out anything damaging over the airwaves that could be intercepted, or that can be printed out and saved for a later date? But that was a big deal to the Republicans and to Donnie Trasco. In fact, he was saying, you remember the chant, lock her up? Remember that? Well, Trump was saying, yeah, she needs to go to jail. Well, now he's expanded his hit list. So now it is Obama that has committed treason. Okay, so Donnie Trasco took office in January. Nothing about Obama being treasonous in January, February, March, April, May, June, or this month. Suddenly, there's talk about the Epstein files. And it seems as if the heat is being turned up on our illustrious president. So now that the heat is being turned up, all of a sudden, wait a minute, hold on now. I know I didn't mention this before, but I think Obama committed treason. Oh, and it just so happens to coincide with the heat that you're feeling from the Epstein files. I mean, you didn't mention this for 7 months? Did you forget about it? But now we need to investigate Obama. Well, what about we investigate and really find out what's in these Epstein files? Because, I mean, your base, your MAGA supporters, they want to know. In fact, you promised them that you would show them what was in this damn report. If there is such a thing as an Epstein file that has some information that could lead to prosecutions of some of these, as the MAGA base said, these vicious pedophiles that are abusing children. Well, why is it Donnie Trasco won't release this information? I think I know why. You know, a report came out in the Wall Street Journal just the other day, and it said that Trump was told by one of his personal attorneys, who's now the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, that his name appeared in these files multiple times. What a freaking shocker. Really? This man that perved on his own daughter. Yeah, that's right, his own daughter. He once said, if she wasn't my daughter, I'd be dating her. What father said that about their daughter? But no, that's not creepy. Now, for Joe Biden, if he kissed a woman on the cheek or held her hand, that was creepy, Joe. But this dude, he talks about his daughter in a kind of sexual and salacious way, but that's okay. You know, somebody posted a clip. There were a bunch of Trumpaholics in a room with a reporter or some journalist, and he's played some fake clips of Trump. Essentially really off the wall stuff about putting cameras into ladies' rooms, you know, about sexual exploits, and even about some of the things that we said about his daughter. Of course, none of this stuff has actually happened, but you should have heard the people in the room trying to cover for him. They said things like, well, he's paying his daughter a compliment. Talking about your daughter's anatomy is not a compliment. I think people go to jail for stuff like that. They got a law in the books called incest. But, of course, it's okay for Donnie Trasco. It's all right. If Obama did this, well, whole different story. We would have had to go and take our lynching squad to the White House, drag him out, and lynch him. But of course, for, this guy, whole different set of circumstances. Do we really need this report to come out to know that the president is involved, heavily involved? Do we really need to see it in black and white? Just listen to some of the things that he has said out of his own mouth. Remember when he was in charge of the Miss USA pageant? He bragged about going into the dressing room while these young ladies were undressed. He said, I could do that because I own the pageant. Now, why would he want to own the pageant? Think about that for a second. All the other businesses he owned, he screwed them over. Lost all of his businesses.
Including the pageant.
But now you want to own a pageant? Come on, man. Let's think. This is Donald Trump we're talking about. We all know about his history with women. Listen, do you remember when he was giving an interview, and he was giving it with one of these hosts, I think from Extra, and he talked about grabbing women by the genitals? I mean, we do remember that, don't we? I know there's a lot of people saying, even though they heard it, the words come out of his mouth, now they're saying, well, it's just locker room talk. But why is it locker room talk when he says it, but when someone else does it, like Bill Clinton, we need to impeach him? And what did Bill do? Okay, Bill, I know you left some evidence on her dress. You never leave the DNA, Billy. You don't do that. You know what I mean? You destroy the evidence. In this case, probably the thing to do would have been to swallow it. But that's just my opinion. Anyway, they wanted to impeach Bill Clinton. In fact, they drove articles of impeachment. And of course, he was unsuccessfully impeached, unlike Trump, who's been impeached twice. But of course, again, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump. You know, things that we can look the other way on with Donald Trump, we have to prosecute others to the fullest extent of the law. And folks, understand, this is all a major distraction. Because the world is bigger than just Donald Trump and his horde of, sycophants that follow him around, that kiss the ring, that bow down and sniff his farts. The reality is, the big story, the huge story, the story that could, as Trump likes to say, start World War III, is what's going on in Israel. We're not paying close enough attention because we're so distracted by the silliness. Obama treasonous. Come on. Listen. Israel has been slaughtering countless Gazans. I think it's up to 52,000 Gazans have been killed since this so-called, what they call a war, which actually a genocide began in October of 2023. They say that they are fighting Hamas. But most of the people that are dying are children, women and children. Now they're issuing more orders to evacuate. Yet they will not allow food, medicine, and other subsidies into the area. The only people that is supporting that are the former colonial powers. And first and foremost is the United States. When Israel decided to bomb in Iran, do you really think America didn't know that was going to happen? Who is the Israeli benefactor, or greatest Israeli benefactor? See, we talk about the amount of funding we give Israel every year. Yes, at the start of the fiscal year, they get $3 billion. That's not all they get. I think the actual figure is about $63 million a month. Figure that out. That's $720 million every year. A little over that, in fact. Israel has free education. Israel has free health care. In this country, under our big, beautiful bill, the people that have health care today, in the coming months, won't have it anymore. But Israel has it. Students in this country graduating from colleges and universities struggle for years to pay back the loans. They come out of college with these hopes and dreams of finding a good job, one that pays well, so they can maybe one day save up enough to buy a home, maybe get married, have a family, maybe send kids to college. Then reality sets in. And the jobs that are available are working at Amazon as a picker or at Walmart as a cashier. Well, maybe not Walmart, but they don't really have cashiers anymore. But you can get a job as a picker at Amazon, or maybe as a truck driver, or some other field that you know nothing about. What you studied in college, meaningless, because the economy is not creating those highly sought after jobs. So young people come out of college and a lot of them have to come back home. Can't afford to go out in the real world. Now look, I know I've said a lot about Trump, and deservedly so. But the problem for America is both the Republicans and the Democrats. Neither one of them doing a damn thing to help the poor, the needy, those who are struggling, the elderly, and young people. We sell them out, both parties. Oh, they talk a good game. But let's just talk about school shootings. How many have there been, say, in the last 20 years? And after every shooting, where American children die, it's the same sort of rhetoric. Oh, our thoughts and prayers go to the family. This is a tragedy. But what do you do about it? Do you limit the amount of guns on the street? Do you go to the gun lobbyists and say, we're not going to take your money anymore if it's going to cost the lives of American children? Hell no. You look at the educational system in this country, underfunded, the curriculum, it's ridiculous. Common Core mathematics, what the hell is that? What are we teaching our children? We say America first. But how are you putting Americans first when they're losing their jobs, they're losing their savings? Health in this country deteriorating rapidly. For a country as wealthy as America, why are so many people so sick here? I heard the government talking the other day that there may be an issue with our food. May be an issue. The stuff that we eat isn't suitable to be fed to dogs. You look at the packaging, there's really no nutritional value on most of the stuff we eat. Saw something the other day, and they said that when a chicken lays an egg, from the time that egg is laid to the time that chicken is going off to slaughter is now about 8 weeks. How does that happen? You go into the supermarket and you look at some raw chicken. Just think about it. Have you ever seen breast meat that large? Drumsticks and wings the size of turkey wings? And they say this is chicken, and they say this is natural. Several years back, probably going back into the 90s, the government said, listen, we're going to allow you to sell genetically modified foods. We're not going to do any studies to find out the long-term health effects. We're just going to allow you to sell it. All that we do is we have to have you at least put something on the packaging that says either GMO or GAO, genetically modified organism or genetically altered organism. Okay, so can somebody from the Food and Drug Administration explain exactly what that is? We have generations of children growing up in this country. It's important to know that 1 in 5 children are hungry, food insecurity. And that's in America. We're not talking about some of these countries in Africa or the Caribbean. We're talking about right here in America that purports to be the richest country on the planet. 1 in 5 of our children hungry. Well, we give these children this genetically altered or genetically modified foods. And we see our children with health issues like juvenile diabetes on the rise. Girls starting their cycle 10, 11 years old. Something's wrong there. We have people in this country, young people that is, that stuff that we did as kids, they won't be able to do it anymore. Growing up in New York, we used to turn on the hydrant. Summer months, hot days, we turn on the hydrant. And on a hot day, we go drink from the hydrant. Can't do that anymore. We drink from a water hose. Nowadays, no, you got to drink out of a bottle. These kids will never know what it's like to taste clean water that doesn't come from a bottle. Remember all the talk about acid rain? How does the rain become acidic? How did that happen? We talk about air quality in this country. Some places it's terrible. How did that happen? So now we have kids can't drink clean water, can't breathe fresh air. And the food ain't even really food. Mass-produced garbage. And our government is telling the food makers, and there's only 4 of them, it's okay. We don't really concern ourselves with the ingredients. As long as there's profits, everybody's happy. Except the people who are sick. Except the people who are dying. And now, our president has decided that healthcare is not a right. In fact, nowadays it's barely a privilege. I think they said somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 million more people will be kicked off of their insurance. And why? So that billionaires can get a huge tax cut? The last time billionaires paid taxes anyway. Warren Buffett, one of the richest men on the planet, he once said his secretary pays more in taxes than he does. His secretary. And this guy is the chairman of Berkshire Hathaway. I think one share of Berkshire Hathaway is 6 figures for one share. And yet his secretary pays more in taxes. For folks that support Trump, and look, I don't care who you support, but don't be stupid. And listen, this isn't me. It was your president that said these are stupid people that want to know about this Jeffrey Epstein case. He said, they're doing the Democrats' work. These are stupid people. Okay? Well, don't be stupid. Don't just follow along blindly, because that has always led to the path of destruction. I mean, we have tons of examples of people blindly following sick people. And Trump is very sick. Make no mistake about it. And I'm not talking about his physical health. But since I mentioned physical health, let's talk about that. So the other day, they were talking about the swelling in Trump's ankles. Matter of fact, let's back up a little bit. They said that Trump had a physical that he passed with flying colors. Now, if both your ankles are swollen to the point where it is visibly swollen, some might call it pitting edema, which means there's so much fluid you can push your finger in and see it then. Well, how do you pass a physical like that? Did he go to doctor kill patient or a trained monkey? Because any doctor is going to look at that and know for sure that that's not what they call venous insufficiency. That's right heart failure. Yes, I know this because I was a paramedic for a long time, and I know what right heart failure looks like. And yes, the president who eats McDonald's like it's going out of style and whose exercise is typing away on Truth Social, yes, he's not in the best of health, mentally or physically. Now, I mean, come on, let's be realistic. Yes, Joe Biden in his debate with Trump, yes, he was stammering. Yes, he seemed like he was completely out of it. And he was. Man's 80 years old. But Trump ain't far behind him. And have you ever listened to some of Trump's press conferences? Did you hear the other day when he said that, do you guys know that Obama was sedacious? Wait, what? Did you say sedacious? What the hell is sedacious? Now, this dude said he went to college, got a bachelor's, and then he went to the Wharton School of Business. And yet you don't know that sedacious isn't a word? I think he meant seditious. But he stammers along. If you ask him, Mr. President, what time does the sun come up? Well, the sun, it depends on, what Joe Biden said about the sun. I don't know, but Obama, he said it was 8 o'clock. But you know what? It could be 8:30. But we're gonna have to watch it. We're gonna have to watch it very carefully because these things change from day to day, from season to season. And this is summer, right? Yeah, Donnie, it's summer. But look, we can't be hypocritical. If it's wrong for one, it's wrong for everybody. And this country has been headed in the wrong direction since its inception. Yeah, from day one. We talk about this country being the last bastion of democracy, when in reality, we've never been a democracy. They tell you America was founded as a democracy, but only white men that own land could vote. Is that a democracy? White women couldn't vote till after black men were given a privilege. Is that a democracy? The indigenous people, when did they get the right to vote? And now, the minuscule voting rights we have left are being stripped away. Does anybody see the debate down in Texas where the Republican Party wants to redraw the lines in some minority neighborhoods? Why do you want to do that all of a sudden? Could it be that the midterms are right around the corner? And for a lot of these Republican senators that signed off on this big BS bill, they have to go back to their constituents. In fact, I think they started their summer break. Now let's think. Summer break. What the hell have these suckers done in this past several months to earn a break? What legislation have they passed that is good for working class and poor Americans? Somebody name one. But they're taking the rest of the summer off. They're going on vacation. People are still trying to find decent jobs, struggling to put food on the table, deciding, do I put gas in the tank or keep the lights on? And these suckers are going home with their paychecks, home with their lifetime ability to get health care for free off the taxpayers. Now, is it interesting that the people that are getting free health care off the back of working class and poor people are telling you, well, you don't need it. It's too expensive. Have you ever heard a politician from either side of the aisle try to add up the cost of war? What did it cost us to bomb in Iran? And I know it was only a short mission, just one day, but what did that cost? Just in terms of manpower, aircraft, fuel, the bombing itself. You got to replace those bombs. What did that cost? Nobody says a damn thing about that. But you ask about programs like SNAP and give menial subsidies to families. That's got to go. That's too expensive. Really? A few months back, someone mentioned the fact that they had joined a food pantry in Manhattan and how supplies were running desperately low. How they needed or wanted to collect canned goods to stock up on things. so that families in need could come and get a day or two supply of food. That makes sense. See, I think that the American people are willing to extend a hand to Americans in need. This response down in Texas, people from other states volunteered to go down there to help out. I saw today a flotilla of Americans is headed to Gaza to try to break through this blockade and just get some food and sustenance to starving men, women, and children. Food is a right given us by the Creator. But did anybody hear that Trump wants to incinerate the food that was supposedly earmarked to go to USAID? This was food that would go to feed people in places like Africa, in some of these countries that have been robbed blind by the colonial powers. Trump now said he's going to incinerate the food. Think about that for a second. How many homeless families are living in their car, are going to sleep in their car tonight? And we're talking right here in America. 1 in 5 American children are hungry, and this dude wants to incinerate food. I know there's some Trump listeners out there who are saying, well, what about Biden? Okay, yeah, what about Biden? Tell me, how does it make sense when people are starving in this country to incinerate food? Who does that? What kind of mentality does it take to want to deny a God-given right to children, pregnant women, the elderly? Listen, I know we incinerate drugs. If there's a big drug bust, yeah, we incinerate the drugs. Okay, that I can see. But we're talking about food. We're talking about life and death. What is wrong with this man? Maybe the better question is, what's right with him? Why him? Well, I really know the answer. And maybe some of you do as well. Or maybe some of you are coming to understand not who this man is, but what he is. I know a lot of you are still kind of in the dark. But before long, we're all going to see exactly what Trump is. It's not hard to figure out. See, I know we want to delude ourselves. We want to see him as Rambo. We want to see him as the choice of the religious right, a man of faith. What faith? What man of faith would incinerate food? I saw people talking about on social media how in the Bible Jesus took, what was it, 5 fish and 2 loaves and fed the multitude. Some said 5,000 people. That's the Christian thing to do. Trump, who says, I'm a Christian, wants to incinerate hundreds of thousands of pounds of food. You gotta be a really, really sick individual to want to incinerate food. And who's stopping him? Who amongst his cabinet said, Mr. President, this is a slap in the face to hungry Americans, not just people in other countries, but hungry Americans who have to sit and watch as this food burns up? But does he care? This is the man that said he's going to make America great again. Well, we're 7 months in. maybe I'm missing something. Where's this greatness? What great things has he accomplished in 7 months? He talks about the economy, but have prices come down? I saw in the news they talking about the price of beef is going to increase dramatically. Well, I mean, fortunately, eggs have come down a little bit. At one point, during his presidency, they were about $8 a dozen. So for the families that are struggling every day to keep food on the table, how are they supposed to do that? I don't know. You know, people ask, what happened to America? Well, what happened to America is we happened to America. The American people. Stop fighting for justice. Stop fighting our government for redress. We just gave up. We let the politicians make decisions and we say nothing. We let the politicians take our pensions, take our health care, take our homes, take our life savings, take our ability to send our children to college, take our health care. And what do we say? You know, probably the most powerful number in America is the number 2. Why 2? Because there's only 2 parties. Either you pick one or the other. You know, in a horse race, and there's 2 horses, if you bet on both horses, how do you lose? So for corporate America and these multinational corporations, they put money behind the Republicans and the Democrats. If you look at the donor rolls, you see the same names come up. Why? Because no matter who wins, you know your legislation is going to get pushed through Congress. Who's really behind this tax cut? Do you think that's just Trump? Or are there corporate forces telling him, hey Donnie, cut the taxes? And what happens after they get this tax cut? Are they going to create jobs for Americans? Are we going to bring the manufacturing base to this country, bring it back? Trump said, yeah, we're going to, if there's no tariffs, if it's made here in this country. Somebody knock on Trump's door and tell him, hey, Donnie, we don't make a damn thing here anymore. He was president during the pandemic. At least he was in the White House. But now, the gloves that people use, the PPE, the gloves, the gowns, the mask, why were they in such short supply? Didn't we used to make those right here in this country? Why didn't we have them when we needed them? Even after the pandemic, did they bring that sector of the economy back to this country? The answer is hell no. Manufacturing costs, they tell us, are way too high in America with labor costs and everything. Well, let's think. Labor cost. Haven't they cut those costs by getting rid of the pensions, getting rid of health care, having people work longer for less? Didn't they cut into those costs? They came up with this catchy phrase called multitasking. And people loved it. Oh, I can multitask. Dummy. That means they get you to do the job of 3 people and pay you 1 salary. But you thought you were doing something, didn't you? Yeah, they cut those costs. But the idea is they didn't cut them enough. They want to be able to manufacture, say, a pair of sneakers in some place like Korea, North Korea, or Vietnam. It'll cost them about $10 per unit. Then they'll bring it to this country and sell it for $200. And what do? As soon as the new Jordans come out, we line up. Gotta have them. The new iPhone, I don't know, it's probably up to the iPhone 50 million by now. Anytime the new iPhone comes out, have you seen the line at the Apple stores? These phones cost upwards of what, $1,500? Everybody lines up for them. Are they made in this country? Wouldn't those be good jobs for Americans to have? But while we're talking about jobs, one of the greatest dangers to the American economy is known as artificial intelligence. Now, why in the hell do we want artificial intelligence when we don't even have no human intelligence in this country anymore? But you want the artificial stuff. So when you go to Walmart and you look up and down the aisles, how many tellers are there? How many jobs are lost there? Here in Northeast Pennsylvania, if you're coming from New Jersey or New York, you have to pass through a toll on the Delaware Bridge, or Delaware River Bridge. How many people working in those booths? Is every lane easy pass now? What happened to the workers? Where are they? I grew up in New York, Brooklyn. I used to ride the subway. Every morning on the way to school, you see the people in the toll booth, or the token booth rather. I remember when a token was 35 cents and went to 50 cents. There was always somebody there. If you needed to buy a token or if you needed help, you went to the token booth and they would call the police for you. Where's the token booth clerks now? What happened to them? Where are their jobs? And now we want to expand AI. Does anybody recall several months back when the San Francisco Police Department wanted to unleash their RoboCop on the streets? Yes, I said RoboCop, yes. AI is now capable of, doing the duties of a police officer, or so they thought. The people of San Francisco said hell to the no and putting that damn thing on my streets. But you know what? It's going to come back. Once crime begins to go up, and it will, because you're cutting people off of Medicaid, Medicare, cutting their food subsidies. How are these people going to eat? You think they're going to sit there and starve in silence? You don't think they'll break into people's homes, into supermarkets, and other places to get food? This is all planned, folks. They want chaos because the plan of the deep state, if you want to call it that, they create the chaos and then they give you the response. So they'll create the situation or the conditions for people to go buck wild. And then when it happens, then you see the media talking about how dangerous it is, how we need to have more police on the street. They're setting it up already. So when that happens, or there may be some RoboCops around, you don't have to pay them. They don't take vacations. They don't need breaks. They don't have to have health insurance. They don't have families that need to be insured. They don't need to rest or sleep. So don't think that that we've seen the last of the San Francisco RoboCop. But in this final segment, I started off saying what was happening in Israel as it relates to the Palestinian people. The situation in what's called the Middle East, which is realistically just Northeast Africa, is spiraling out of control. I think just yesterday or the day before, 2 Chinese military aircraft landed in Iran. We're talking military cargo aircraft. Both of these planes switched off their transponders as they entered Iranian airspace. They speculate that these Chinese aircraft, military aircraft, were carrying military supplies into Iran. And they switched off their transponders so that they could not be tracked. Who would be tracking them? How about Israeli intelligence? This situation is a powder keg. The Chinese are probably supplying arms to the Iranians. Deservedly so. Around the world, a number of countries are breaking ties with Israel. Some countries, there's some rumblings of war. Places like Egypt are saying enough is enough. Some in Egypt are expecting very shortly full-scale war with the Israelis. North Korea has issued some pretty tough statements about what is happening and who's to blame. Israel, just the other day, bombed in Syria. They bombed the capital city of Damascus. What for? Just the other day, it was Iran that posed a threat. What threat is there in Damascus? Why are you doing this, Netanyahu? I said Netanyahu, but is that his real name? His real name is Milikovsky. He's not from Israel. In fact, none of them are from Israel. They changed their names and they learned to speak Hebrew, but none of them are indigenous to that region. Not one. The reason Mr. Milikovsky, or Netanyahu, or Bibi if you want to call him that, is doing this because he wants to expand the borders of Israel. He's already shown the map. They call it Greater Israel, and it will encompass Syria. It will encompass all of Gaza. It goes as far as Saudi Arabia. They plan on taking all of that land. Why? Because every year they want more and more Jewish settlers to come back, and they need more land, more supplies of fresh water, and they are actively taking the land. And who's supporting them? You know who, Donnie Trasco. That's him. He pretends like, oh, we didn't know they were going to do this. The hell you didn't. They brief you in advance. Just, 2 weeks ago, Bibi Milikovsky was here. What do you think he came for? Oh yeah, we know about the proclamation where he wants to advance Trump's name for the Nobel Peace Prize. Somebody who just dropped bombs on Iran, and Iran poses no threat to this country, but he wants the Nobel Peace Prize. Could it be because Obama got it? Well, you know what? No, he wouldn't do that. He's not that petty. No, not Trump. Yeah, I think it's because he's really concerned about the fact that Obama was sedacious, whatever the hell that means. But look, Netanyahu came here for more money and more arms. These ain't just visits just to say, yo, what's up, Trump? Want to get a drink? Chase some young girls. He is here for money and weapons to take back and to kill more Palestinians, to bomb in Damascus, to bomb in Lebanon and to expand the territory of Israel way beyond its borders. This has been something that has been on the table in the planning stages since the 90s. And what they've done is, with America's backing and the other Western allies, they chopped up what's called the Middle East. They told the Arab countries, if you make peace with Israel, we will invest in your country. So Saudi Arabia, ridiculously rich. The United Arab Emirates, I think they sell gas for like maybe $1 a gallon. Because they have so much money, they created a man-made island called Dubai. Man-made. That's how much oil money they have. And yet these Muslim countries are sitting by while their Muslim brothers and sisters are being bombed out of existence. And what are they saying? Well, we'll pray to Allah for them. That's it. Nothing else. No aid. No conversation with Mr. Milakovsky to say enough is enough. How do you, places like Saudi Arabia, the Crown Prince, those in charge in the UAE, how do you sleep at night? Do you just not watch the news to see what's happening? Do you pretend that it's not happening, that you don't see what you see? All around the world, there are growing protests. People all across the globe are displaying Palestinian flags. Ireland the other day had said they're cutting off ties, completely cutting off ties with Israel. But I know who won't cut off ties: the United States of America. Even though there's a growing chorus in America where people are very skeptical of Israel. It was because of Israel that we attacked Saddam Hussein. It was because of Israel that we bombed in Iran. Our foreign policy in what's called the Middle East, it's not determined by Washington. That comes out of, used to be Tel Aviv, now comes out of Jerusalem. They tell us who to attack, when to attack, and we just say, okay, boss. America's young people, who this country has denied their future, well, when it's time for the bombs to fall, America will call on them. Tell them, hey, do the patriotic thing. You ever notice that these dudes and these ladies, the most patriotic, the ones that wave the flag and have the flag on their lapel pin, you ever notice that they're never the ones going down to the induction station to sign up? Well, you're so patriotic. Why would you send my son, but you don't go? You know, they say that old men start wars for young men to fight, and that's true. We have a president who's a draft dodger, private bone spurs, 34 felony convictions, couldn't join the army or any of the armed services, but he can command them. Does that make sense? What makes sense in America anymore? Am I the only one that's seeing this? There's got to be more of you. More of you got to know that there's something fundamentally wrong here. And for those of us who see this, well, what's the plan, folks? What are we going to do? This country's on life support, and Trump is trying to pull the plug. And yet, the same old distractions, same old divisive rhetoric is still flying back and forth, still pitting the black against the brown against the black and brown against the Asians, and of course the Caucasians against everybody. Well, as long as we're willing to play that game, they win. For this bill that was recently signed, the big BS bill, ain't nothing good in there for none of us. I don't care whether you're black, brown, whether you call yourself white, there's nothing good in there. Or you think that a couple of dollars off your tax is going to really help? Food prices are going up every day. You file your taxes in what? April? And you get a refund? How long will that last? How long will it keep food on the table? Well, folks, the real danger is what's happening in Northeast Africa, also known as the Middle East. And if things continue to escalate, I can guarantee you there will be American boots on the ground in another foreign conflict that Trump promised to keep us out of. But he also promised to show us them damn Epstein files, didn't he? And ain't nobody seen those yet. And ain't nobody going to see them. Right now, the assistant AG is down in Florida interviewing Ghislaine Maxwell. They say that Epstein committed suicide in jail, in a cell, where it's almost impossible to do that. Is it possible that maybe Ghislaine Maxwell will come down with a bad case of suicide as well? This woman's been in jail now 4 or 5 years. If they really wanted to know about the Epstein files, why didn't they ask her a year ago, a month ago? Do they really want to know? The truth is, do you think Trump doesn't know what's in those files, if they exist? Do you think Pam Bondi, who said they were on her desk, do you think she knows what's in them? Let's not be foolish. Damn it, we all know what's in them. We all know about this freak. And yes, he was partying with Epstein. He was on the island. He was on the plane. Where Epstein was, he was there. Why? Because there were young girls there. And look, it don't take much of an imagination to figure out what was going on. Whether you want to believe it or not, it is clear. Well, folks, that's about my time. Just wanted to come on and maybe something I said will reach somebody. I know the die-hard Trumpaholics, they're never going to hear this because they don't want to. Because in their mind, Trump is their savior. He's going to lead them to the path of glory. Only you ain't going to like the glory you're led to when you get there. So we're going to see you here next week for another Thoughtful Thursday. We're going to drop some more bombs, but not the physical kind that's going to blow up. We're dropping these in your brain and in your spirit so that maybe you'll wake up. So until next week, you'll have a good weekend.